Fear. Most people are governed by their habits, their fears, and their opinions of others.
Boxing King Media in association with the Riyadh season. Andy Lee here in Dublin. I'm not gonna say where we are exactly because I'm probably gonna get it wrong.
This one's not as bad. We were in Dunleary. Now we're in Dalkey. Dalkey's pretty easy to pronounce.
Dalkey, right? Top man. Just seen yourselves and Joe just wrap up a training session. Before I speak about Joe, I just want to ask you as a coach, you know, you got a lot of praise in the last 12 months for the work you've done with Joe, and obviously Paddy Donovan as well. How are you finding life as a coach? You know, where do you kind of see yourself in the world stage of, like, you know, upcoming coaches?
I don't think about that really. I'm privileged to work with very talented boxers. And I think as a coach, you're only as good as the fighter. You definitely improve them and bring something to it, but the fighter does the work. The fighter has the mental challenge, the internal challenge going into the fight. And as a coach, you can help that and you can work with them on that, their physical, their technique, their mental approach. But ultimately it comes down to the fighter. So trainer has a big impact, but the fighter does the work and he deserves all the credit.
Okay. I'm just going to start off with reflecting on the win over Deontay Wilder that you had with Joe. Obviously in the build-up, yourself and Malik Scott, you know, you've got history at the Kronk Gym. You both kind of did your schoolage of boxing there. Was that ever part of your mind? Was that like a separate rivalry going on in the background? Did you guys have a relationship in the back in the days?
No, I had known of Malik Scott for a long time, but we'd never met before. And I'd seen him around the fights and say hello to him, and I think he's a very good coach. And that's, as I said, you're only as good as the fighter. So the way it is in this day and age, now Malik Scott's not a good coach, but before the fight he was a great coach. And Deontay Wilder's not a good fighter anymore because he lost. But before that, he was the most dangerous puncher in the division. So it's a very fickle sport we're in and a very fickle world. And that's why I don't read into the praise too much, and I'll hopefully not read into any criticism too much.
What do you make of that? I was going to touch on that as well, because we saw when Joe beat Deontay Wilder, prior to the fight getting made, pretty much everyone in boxing thought Joe was going to get stopped. I think he was 9-1 to win the fight. Obviously, it was a complete opposite. It was a dominating win. But since then, we've seen people saying that Wilder had lost too much weight. His heart's not in it anymore. His legs aren't there anymore. So you had probably the best seat in the ring, in the arena that night. You know, what did you make of Wilder as a fighter, and the comments that people are saying afterwards?
The comments are just, like I said, very fickle, and it's easy after the fact. But I just, like, for watching Wilder, I felt like maybe he was trying to warm into the fight. The first few rounds he hadn't fought or hadn't been active, and that was a big advantage to us. But by the time it was time for him to do something in the fight, it was too late. He was too far behind and he was getting hurt and tired. You know, while he was getting ready to do something, he was getting beat up. So I felt like if he fought now, Wilder, he's probably at his most dangerous. And I don't think if he is intending to fight, don't wait too long. Get in as soon as you can. And just fight. Don't worry about the money. Get yourself a couple of wins. I think he's probably at his most dangerous now because he will have 12 good rounds under his belt. He'll be sharp as ever. And activity is so key to any boxer. And that's what we've got. That's Joe's big advantage now over most guys, that he's been fighting so regularly. That we're just working on things and he's improving all the time. Instead of relearning things I've taught him before, those things are all natural to him now. And he's shots. And when you're active, your instincts sharpen. You do things naturally. You don't have to think about things. They come instinctively. So it's so much benefits to being active.
You know, you just touched on Joe there as a fighter. What kind of fighter is he right now? Because again, I'll tell you a couple of different things that because I always like to read what people are saying with their opinions and then get the coach's perspective. One is that he's a lot more apprehensive. He's more like a outside boxer looking to counter punch, and there's some people saying he's too much on the outside. You as his coach, what kind of fighter have you made out of Joe Parker?
I think Joe is only tapping into his potential now. He's 6'4", 6'5", 6'4", 115 to 112 kilos. But he has all the ability, coordination of a middleweight. So he can do a lot of things that other fighters in the heavyweight division can't do. But he's only 31, a wealth of experience, a former champion before, so he knows what it takes to get to the top. And how he's dedicated himself over the last year, it can be seen in the results. He's a world-class athlete now, as well as becoming a world-class heavyweight. So he's dedicated himself. He's living the right lifestyle outside the ring. He's doing really, really hard work in the gym, in the weights gym, conditioning, the runs he's doing, but also technically he's improving all the time. And because he's fitter outside the boxing gym, he's able to train now the way I wanted him to train as a professional boxer. He can do the techniques, he's got the flexibility and the conditioning to do the work. So Joe can beat them all. Especially, as I said, fighting so regularly, the confidence he has and the belief he has, the faith he has in himself, Joe can beat them all on his day.
As again, touching on Joe's legacy so far, he's had so many great fights, but there's 4 fights that stick out for me. Obviously, he fought a young Andy Ruiz. When he fought Anthony Joshua all them years ago, Anthony Joshua was on a 20-fight knockout streak. Nobody had ever gone the distance with him. And Joe was the first man to take him to 12 rounds. When he fought Joe Joyce, at that time, nobody wanted to fight Joe Joyce. Yeah, he got stopped, but it was obviously a close fight up until that moment. Wilder had dropped every single fighter he'd fought prior to Joseph Parker, and nobody wanted to fight Zhilei Zhang, according to Frank Warren, other than Joseph Parker. These are things that I think are worth highlighting. Why is Joseph Parker the guy doing all these things, in your opinion?
Actually, he's got a fighter's heart and a fighter's mentality, and it doesn't matter who's proposed or put in front of him to fight. His answer is always the same: yeah, let's go. Never a second thought. And that's the old school mentality. He's not trying to protect anything, trying to protect his reputation or his record. He just wants to fight the best, and he wants the biggest challenges. And I want it too. So we're in sync that way.
I like that. And I just want to get your opinion on, we saw Eddie Hearn and Lennox Lewis have a bit of a debate on Twitter recently. And I think Lennox was basically trying to say that the winner of Anthony Joshua and Ngannou should not fight for the winner of the undisputed fight. And he was suggesting Joseph Parker on the back end of fighting Wilder and Zhang. Obviously, if he beats Zhang, that person should be the one fighting for the undisputed. You got an opinion on what that debate was about?
I actually didn't. I didn't even pay attention to it. I just saw them back and forth, screenshotting things back and forth.
That's basically what it was about.
Yeah, Joe beats Zhang. He's in the argument, isn't he? How he beats Zhang, and if he looks phenomenal, then he's in the argument. He's in the argument. Now we'll never we anticipate Tyson Fury to be undisputed, and he'll never fight Tyson, which is a difficult situation. But maybe Tyson will give us one of the belts, or let us fight for one of his belts.
That was going to be my next question. Do you actually know the first time Joseph and Tyson met? Do you know about that moment?
No, I know they've been in touch for years. I don't know, did they meet in Vegas or who? I'm not sure where they met initially. But they've been very close for years.
I'll show it to you. It's actually quite an interesting moment. It was when Joseph Parker fought Hughie Fury.
Oh yes, yeah.
There's actually a video of it, if you've seen that or not.
Don't be smart, Joe. Hey, be smart, mate.
See a lot of familiar faces.
It's interesting. It's seen how their journeys have kind of like come together now, and that was the first time they met when Joe was fighting Tyson's cousin Hughie.
Yeah, well, I don't know. You can see that Joe's probably thinking, "Oh, what's going to be Tyson's reaction? Are they going to, are they going to be is it going to be a bit of aggression because of how close Tyson was to Hughie?" But actually, after the fight, they all stayed together and partied together for 2 or 3 days, I think, after the fight. And that was the start of their good relationship. And Tyson's always spoke highly of Joe and always respected Joe because Joe's took on those challenges. I remember when I can't remember what year it was, but no one had really heard of Joe Parker. And Tyson said to me, "Look at this guy. He's fighting good fighters early in his career." Tyson's a student of the game and knows all the heavyweights and all. You might be a 1-0 heavyweight, but I bet you Tyson, you might not realize it, but Tyson Fury knows who you are and probably seen you fight. So he's always respected Joe, and obviously Joe idolizes Tyson and what Tyson's done for Joseph and me, just through our relationship with him. We can't thank him enough because opportunities have come our way, the friendship, besides the opportunities, just being in his presence, the education, the mindset that Tyson has. It's been a blessing to have that relationship, and it's worked out so well for Joseph. Getting the first fight with Keane, and then the opportunity came around to fight Wilder, and now this one again. Joe's right in the mix, and it's down to our relationship with Tyson that it's all started. But Joe's done the work, and he's got the wins, and he's put his his life on the line really, and they go hand in hand. So hard work and good friendship. I try and bring any fighter to be in Tyson's presence. I brought Paddy Donovan there, just to go jogging with him, listen to him talk, watch him train, see how he pushes himself. Just the mentality. I've never seen anybody. That's what separates Tyson from everybody else.
It's worth highlighting that because a lot of people fail to recognise how fighters help fighters, and obviously Tyson's played his part, and Joe's obviously took the opportunity, and like I said, real friendships, and he's obviously he's got some great opportunities on the back end of it. I just want to get your opinion on this rumour that's come about recently with Jai Opetaia leaving the camp, allegedly after only 5 rounds of sparring. Obviously, Jai's team have come out and said, the rumours are false and it was competitive sparring, and because there wasn't enough orthodox sparring, he came back to Australia. So just you as a coach, would stuff like that piss you off, and stuff like that comes out, and does it disrupt the fighters?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about the reason why. All I know is the fact that he's left the camp. It doesn't really matter. But Tyson, I don't think you're there as his sparring partner, and he has a nice word with you, talk to you, take an interest in you. If he'll ask about your career, but ultimately you're there to do a job. You're there to work. You're his sparring partner, and he wants to get the best work he can in terms of the rounds. But for Jai Opetaia, I'm sure he's the cruiserweight king, and he's got his own fight to think about, and it's a difficult fight too. So if the conditions weren't ideal for him, he probably felt best to go back to Australia. So everyone has to do. I don't think it's a personal issue. I think Tyson will respect. Everyone has to do what's best for them.
It just must be annoying for fighters, just looking on the outside when you can imagine all the rumours that are flying around. But I know from speaking to Tyson, he doesn't give a shit what people think or say.
Yeah, it's not. All these rumours, the people are just to sensationalise, put a tweet out there and to get numbers on their tweets or whatever. Silly.
The last thing I want to raise and just get your opinion on is we saw a couple of years ago when Zhilei Zhang fought Jerry Forrest, and a lot of people thought potentially he could have lost that fight, and most people thought he was just like a novelty heavyweight, just a big guy from China who could do it for 4 rounds and then he was done. now, Frank Warren told me last week he's a guy that nobody in the heavyweight division wants to fight. But your guy Joseph Parker's put his hand up and said, yeah, let's go, after facing Deontay Wilder. So why do you think Zhang has become this force that people don't want to fight anymore?
2 wins over Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce was the bogeyman of the division, and now it's become Zhang. But as I said, it's the fickle nature of the sport. And when he had struggled against Jerry Forrest, then he wasn't much. Now he's also, all of a sudden, he's the baddest man in the division. And when Joe beats him, they'll be saying, oh, he's too old. He's whatever he is, 41. Joe was too young for him, too fast for him. They'll always come up with something. But people are too quick to write off fighters after a loss. Joe's a perfect example of what can be done. He lost to Joe Joyce. We picked ourselves back up. He rededicated himself. Got 3 good wins. Then goes into fighting Deontay Wilder, all within the space of a year, 12 months. And now he's lined up to fight Zhang. So it'll be his 5th fight in 14 months, 15 months. So activity is the key, and people forget quickly. You're only as good as your last fight. So if you've lost, then you have to live with that. It's very hard to overcome as well, mentally, and it's very hard to live with. But you just got to get back in the ring. Get back in the ring and fight. And it might not be your best performance. I know fighters are always slow. Well, they're hesitant coming back off a loss. The confidence is low. They're never the same, or fight with the same abandonment as a confident winning fighter. So the performance is never really good coming off a loss. And people will still criticize you and say you're not the same fighter. When Joe fought Jack Massey, it was a lackluster performance, and people thought Joe was pretty much finished. But we didn't listen. As I said, take the hype and the criticism all with a pinch of salt. But get back fighting. And Joe Joyce fighting Cash Ali. It's a very interesting fight. Cash Ali has done a lot of sparring with Joseph Parker, and it's not an easy comeback fight for Joyce. It's not a comeback fight. It's a real fight, and it's an interesting fight, one I want to see. And Cash has a good chance of winning that fight. But for Joyce, if he can overcome Cash Ali, get another fight again, and he'll be back. People will be saying he's the wrecking ball again. It's just the way. It's the nature of the sport.
Definitely, and I appreciate them thoughts, and I always like trying to educate the fans who are tuning in and watching, and you can only draw comparisons to, let's say, people sat there talk about Sugar Ray Robinson, and I remember when he had his first or maybe his second loss, he rematched the guy within 4 weeks or something, then he ended up fighting him like 3 or 4 times. Fighters, the world's kind of changed. Where do you think it changed? Like where you lost and he was like, that's it, you're done. But years ago, they were losing and then rematching him 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. There'll be criticism of people, trying, maybe with Floyd Mayweather being undefeated, and that was becoming an obsession. And but the heavyweight division is different. Heavyweight division has always been different. If you're a heavyweight and you can get busy, you'll always get a chance to fight. You'll always get an opportunity. That's the great thing about a heavyweight division. It's not. So one loss doesn't really mean anything. So I don't really know too much about the history of it, but I think it should. Listen, when there's so many fights, regular fights, and such a lack of good heavyweights. If you're a good heavyweight, you can stay active, make yourself available, then you're going to get an opportunity. Definitely.
So we'll leave it on that note. Andy, appreciate your time, top man, and thank you for welcoming me to your home.
Listen, I got a question for you. Where can discipline take you? Discipline points you toward your goals.